Our lives are just filled with noise all the time. But what actually happens when it all just stops? Today we're going to dive into our really complex and, let's be honest, often uncomfortable relationship with silence. It's this powerful force we barely ever think about, but it shapes our minds and our world in some pretty profound ways.
I want you to think about the last time you were in, say, an elevator with someone, and the small talk just died. That sudden, deafening quiet. That squirming, awkward feeling where you just desperately want to say anything to fill the space. Why is that? Why does something that's supposed to be peaceful so often feel like a problem we need to solve, and fast? Okay, so here's the key thing you gotta get. Silence isn't a vacuum. It's not nothing. It's actually a space. And when there's no sound coming from the outside world, our brain doesn't just switch off. Nope. It turns inward and starts generating its own content, its own noise. And that internal chatter, that's what we're really talking about today. So let's start with a feeling every single one of us knows well. The awkward pause. That moment in a conversation where everything just screeches to a halt. We've all been there, right? But the reasons we get so uncomfortable are this fascinating mix of the culture we grew up in and some really, really old instincts.
And get this, our discomfort with silence? It's not even universal. For a lot of English speakers, a gap in conversation of just 4 seconds can start to trigger actual anxiety. But in Japan, a pause of over 8 seconds can be totally normal, even expected. So what that tells you is that a huge part of our relationship with silence is something we learn. It's cultural.
But it's not just culture. Not even close. Our fear of silence goes way, way deeper. It's practically carved into our DNA. It's an ancient survival instinct that kept our ancestors alive long before any of this cultural stuff even existed.
I mean, just think about how this plays out through history. For early humans, if the birds and insects in the forest suddenly went quiet, that wasn't peaceful, that was terrifying. It meant a predator was close. For them, sound meant safety. Then came the invention of fire. That constant crackle wasn't just for warmth, it was a comforting sound that pushed back the silent, dangerous dark. Fast forward to medieval times, and you've got church bells. They were like a sonic shield, a weapon against silence, telling everyone the community was alive and safe. And now, in our modern era, we are so drenched to noise 24/7 that complete silence just feels wrong, unnatural.
Okay, so we've got this ancient fear baked right into our DNA. But what's actually going on inside our modern brains when the world around us finally goes quiet? Well, that's where things get really weird. It's a paradox. External silence often creates an absolutely deafening internal noise. I'd like you to meet the default mode network, or DMN for short. When all the external noise and distractions drop away, this network in your brain lights right up. It's your brain's internal monologue machine. It's what's running when you're daydreaming, replaying a memory, or suddenly figuring out the solution to a problem while you're in the shower. So yeah, if you've ever tried to just empty your mind in a quiet room and it felt impossible, it's not you. Your brain is literally designed to do the exact opposite.
And that is why social silence feels so much like judgment. Your brain is a social scanning machine, constantly searching for little cues that you belong, that you're accepted. When those cues vanish during a pause in conversation, your brain doesn't just chill out. It goes into panic mode, desperately searching for meaning, and a lot of the time, filling in that blank with the worst-case story. Oh no, did I say something wrong? They hate me. I'm being rejected.
And for some people, this internal noise isn't just thoughts. It can be a real physical sound, like tinnitus. When your ears are deprived of external sound, the brain can literally start inventing its own. This quote, it's from someone describing what it's like to lose their hearing, and it just perfectly captures that jarring paradox. No one told me it was going to be this noisy. It's this buzz, this roar.
So what happens when we push this to the absolute, undeniable extreme? Well, let's take a little trip to what is officially the quietest place on the planet, an anechoic chamber.
Just look at that number for a second. -24.9 decibels. That is so quiet, it's actually below the physical threshold of human hearing. It's a level of absolute silence that our entire biology was never, ever designed to experience.
This chart really puts it into perspective, right? The quietest sound a person can possibly hear is 0 decibels. Microsoft has their famous quiet room, which clocks in at around -20. But the Orfield lab, they blow that away. It's not just a quiet room. It's a place where the concept of sound energy basically ceases to exist.
So what happens when you're actually inside?
The outside world vanishes, and you become the only sound source. With no external noise and no echo at all, you literally start to hear the inner workings of your own body. Your heart thumping in your chest, the blood rushing through your veins, your lungs breathing. It is so disorienting that most people can't stand it for more than a few minutes before they feel completely overwhelmed.
Okay, so we've established that silence can be kind of terrifying. But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? What if we could flip the script? What if we stopped seeing silence as this threat we have to run away from and started seeing it as a tool we can actually use? Because if we can just get past that initial hardwired discomfort, silence becomes an incredible asset.
Think about it. There are really two kinds of silence you can use. First, there's planned silence. That's like taking a quiet minute before a big meeting to just focus and prepare your mind. But then there's unplanned silence, that awkward pause we talked about. Instead of panicking, you can use it. It gives you a moment to collect your thoughts. It signals to the other person that you're actually listening and considering what they said. And honestly, it projects confidence because you're comfortable enough not to rush.
Okay, so how do you actually do this? How do you get better at it? Step 1, just try it. Seriously. Intentionally leave a little 2-second pause in a conversation and see what happens. Then challenge yourself. Try to hold that space for 5 to 7 seconds and just master that impulse to fill it. A great habit is to always take a full breath before you answer a question. And maybe the most important one, when someone else takes a pause, don't jump in and rescue them. Respect their process. Give their thoughts some room.
And this all leads to something much bigger, something more philosophical. Because beyond being just a useful communication tool, silence can actually be a path to understanding ourselves and finding real peace.
The philosopher Blaise Pascal wrote this centuries ago, and it is just so on point for today. He wasn't saying that sitting in a quiet room is a punishment. He was saying our constant, frantic need to run away from that quiet room is the real root of our problems. And think about it, isn't that exactly what we do? We are masters of diversion. We fill every spare second with podcasts, music, scrolling, anything to avoid just being alone with our own thoughts. That little voice in our head, the chattering, insecure ego, it thrives on all that distraction. Stillness is the one place it has nowhere to hide, and that's exactly why it feels so scary at first.
So at the end of the day, that's what silence really does. It strips everything away. All the distractions, all the social roles we play, all the noise coming from the world. And suddenly, the threat isn't a predator lurking outside anymore. The challenge is coming from within.
And that leaves us with the ultimate question. The very thing our brains have been trained for millennia to fear, the quiet, might just be the one place we can find the clearest answer. Who are you when the noise finally stops?